Good afternoon, the gathering at Scott Memorial. This is Pastor Stephanie, trying a different spot in my room. See if that makes it a little less bland. Sorry for still the white wall back there. Today we're continuing to look at extending hospitality. First I wanted to go over some of the announcements. We're having an Easter egg interest meeting to help with the Easter egg hunt, and that'll be next Sunday after the service. We're having a Shrove Tuesday, which is like the church version of Mardi Gras, on Tuesday, February 25th at the church with pancakes. So it's all the stuff you might be giving up, like sweet stuff. So pancakes that will benefit the youth. Then Ash Wednesday, we're having two services on February 26th. We're having a noon service at the church. It'll be a short 15-20 minute service. And then we're going to be having Ashes to Go, a short service, short kind of intermittent service, but just come show up between 6 and 7 o'clock on again February 26th, and that will be at Casual Pint. Because we serve food with the food bank, we're not able to have a service around certain times that we're serving food, and so we already have a relationship with Casual Pint, so it's a great way to invite friends to Ashes to Go and stay to fellowship after you get Ashes if you'd like. Also, we're starting a confirmation class. So if you have a youth that has not yet been confirmed, that wants to be confirmed, let me know. I'm the one organizing that, so let me know, and we'll start the confirmation class. All right, so we're looking at extending hospitality. Why do we extend hospitality? And we do it for several reasons. First of all, because God tells us to. But our first scripture comes from Hebrews chapter 13, verses 1 and 2. Let mutual love continue. Do not neglect to show hospitality to strangers, for by doing that, some have entertained angels without knowing it. So this idea that all of us, first of all, are made in the image and likeness of God, but that when we invite strangers in and we get to know them, that many times we are blessed by God and we might be entertaining angels in those strangers. Another reason, though, is to get to know people. And we see that Jesus got to know people, especially his disciples. We see in John chapter 1 when he is starting to get to know his disciples and inviting them to come follow him, that he knows these people. So in 1 John chapter 1, verses 43 through 51, the next day Jesus decided to go to Galilee. He found Philip and said to him, "Follow me." Now Philip was from Bethsaida, the city of Andrew and Peter. Philip found Nathanael and said to him, "We have found him about whom Moses and the law and also the prophets wrote, Jesus, son of Joseph from Nazareth." Nathanael said to him, "Can anything good come out of Nazareth?" Philip said to him, "Come and see." When Jesus saw Nathanael coming toward him, he said of him, "Here is truly an Israelite in whom there is no deceit." Nathanael asked him, "Where did you get to know me?" Jesus answered, "I saw you under the fig tree before Philip called you." Nathanael replied, "Rabbi, you are the Son of God. You are the King of Israel." Jesus answered, "Do you believe because I told you that I saw you under the fig tree? You will see greater things than these." And he said to him, "Very truly I tell you, you will see heaven open up and the angels of God ascending and descending before the Son of God." So Jesus, of course, has these wonderful skills that most of us don't have, the ability to see inside a person's heart just from observing them. So here Jesus had seen Nathanael under a fig tree and could see maybe by his actions or again just seeing into his heart that he was a man without deceit and a man that he wanted to follow him, to be a disciple of his. So that's why we get to know people, so we can get to know their heart, because all of us have a longing to belong and a longing to know God. We all have a kind of a God-sized hole in our heart that we try to fill with different things. Maybe we try to fill with an addiction to something we shouldn't. Maybe there are many addictions. Some of them are socially acceptable and some aren't. But maybe we try to fill them with things. Maybe we try to fill them with shopping. Maybe we try to fill it with something that's not good for us, when really we have that longing for God. And so we welcome others because we all have this longing. We all want to get to know one another. So I want to share with you a couple of stories. In service, I had pictures of these people that was hard to see because of the beautiful light that we have in our sanctuary. But one is a wonderful woman from my church in Los Angeles, and her name is Retha. Retha was 90 when I met her. She's now 98. She's a petite woman, less than 5 feet tall, has this beautiful red hair, likely died since she's in her 90s, but she just has this welcoming spirit about her. She just kind of disarms you when you come in. She gives you a big hug, whether she knows you or not, and makes you feel welcome just by her presence. She has told me this, and I fully believe it, that people have told her that many people came to the church just to get a hug from Retha every week. Los Angeles is a wonderful place where a lot of people go to fulfill their dreams, and so they often, though, feel lonely. It's hard to be in a brand new place all by yourself. That's how I felt as a missionary serving out in Los Angeles. I was brand new, didn't know the area, didn't know people. And so every week I would come in and get a huge hug from Retha and know that I was loved, which felt great. Though my family, we could Skype and regularly talk to each other, it's not the same as the physical touch. And often those hugs from Retha were the only hugs I got all week. So there's something powerful about being welcomed into a space. I know in seminary they taught us that not everyone likes to be hugged, so I do try to make sure that I know that there are some people who don't like to be hugged, but for many of us, that hug just is so powerful. And so one way that Retha welcomes people, continues to welcome people, is through her hugs and just welcoming others. And then in my former congregation, we had Sheila. Sheila loves to welcome people. She has these beautiful arms that she said God gave her to just love on people and give people hugs. You cannot go into a service if Sheila is there and not receive a hug from her, whether you're brand new or whether she's known you for decades. She just has this wonderful ability to make you feel welcome and make sure that you know that you were noticed. And that is so powerful, especially for our visitors. Though they don't necessarily want to be on display, to know that their presence was appreciated and was noticed, it goes a really long way in feeling welcomed. The first Sunday I met Sheila, she was at the door. She greeted me, not even knowing I was her new pastor, though she had the sheet on me, didn't make that connection. And so she does that to everyone, whether she knows you or not. She treats you like a long lost friend, and it's a beautiful gift that she offers everyone that she meets. And I also wanted to share the story of my sister and how she found her church. So my sister, as I've told some of you all before, is 18 months younger than I am. We both grew up in the same wonderful United Methodist church that just poured into us, made us feel loved as children and youth, and so she wanted to find another church similar to the church that we grew up in. Excuse me. So she moved to Culpeper after graduating from college and got her first teaching job in Culpeper, which is it's in between Fredericksburg and Charlottesville. To me, it's a small town because we grew up just outside of Richmond. So she first moved in town. And she wanted to find a Methodist church because that's what we were raised. And she appreciates the Methodist theology, so she went to the large Methodist church in Culpeper, which is what we grew up in, a large Methodist church. So she started going, and she would tell me how it was going. And she really liked the pastors. They really got to know her, and she really appreciated that. But she knows pastors are busy. The fact that her sister was in seminary at the time, then was a missionary, she knows that pastors are busy. So she really wanted to get to know the congregation. So my sister plays harp. She started playing somewhat frequently in services. Every once in a while when they wanted a harpist, she would play. She started going to their fellowship dinners. They have fellowship meals, kind of like our potlucks after church, but they're during the week. And she started going to these potlucks, but her frustration was people didn't seem to want to get to know her. They weren't mean to her, so it's not like they wouldn't at least say hello, but no one asked her deeper questions. No one seemed to really care that she was even there, which of course was frustrating to a young adult, brand new to the area, wanted to get connected, wanted to be part of something, and yet kind of felt like she kept getting the cold shoulder from the church members. She even joined a Sunday school class. She put herself out there. She was like, oh, let me do everything I can. So she tried to join a Sunday school class, and again, just didn't really feel like she connected and that she was wanted. She even went so far as she went on a retreat with some of the church members. They advertised that they were doing this retreat, and she's like, all right, I've got to get to know people on this retreat. And once again, still no one seemed to want to get to know who she was. So she got frustrated, as you might imagine. A few years in to living in Culpeper, she was done with apartment life and started looking for homes and found a home outside of town. Outside of town in Culpeper means on the line with the next county. It means that you have to take gravel roads to go get to her house. And it was satellite internet, which is like very limited internet. You cannot stream Netflix. It's a world I do not understand, but love. She loves it, so it's wonderful. So it was kind of a perfect reason to start looking for a new church. It was about a 20-30 minute drive to a larger church. So she's like, well, I'll just use that as my excuse of trying to find a new church. So she was telling me how that went. So she found a Methodist church that was part of a multi-point charge out in Madison, where she was living really close to. And so she started attending there and liked it. Again, tried to plug herself in, played the harp some. But then her frustration was the pastor was wonderful, but seemed kind of disorganized. So she told me, she's like, Stephanie, I've emailed him, I've called him, I told him I want to join the church, but I feel like he just isn't responding to me. And I was like, well, Megan, that's her name. There are, pastors are busy. Maybe he just had a busy week. And she's like, Stephanie, I've done this for several weeks in a row. I've called him. I've emailed him. I've talked to him on Sunday. She's like, I just kind of get the feeling that I'm not a priority in any way. I want to be somewhere where if I ask to join, the pastor's going to help me to be able to join. It's like, hey, that's reasonable. Do you want me to talk to him pastor to pastor? I was a brand new pastor. I was like, I can call him up, email him, and be like, hey, my sister's trying to join your church. She's like, no, I want to do this on my own. It's like, okay, I won't use my pastor powers. So she was like, I think I'm just going to try another church. So she tried another church in Madison, also part of a multi-point charge with multiple churches. And so she called me the second Sunday and was like, Stephanie, I found my church. And so always wanting to learn, what is it that attracts people to a church so I can replicate it in my congregation? I was like, well, Megan, what did they do? And this is what she said. She said, Stephanie, they remembered my name. It wasn't just that the pastor remembered her name, but the people remembered her name. That's all it took. She didn't care whether it was a contemporary or traditional music. She didn't care about their Sunday school options. She didn't care about the times of the services at that point in her life. All she cared about was a community that would welcome her. That's all she wanted. All she wanted. And a people that remembered her name. And she finally found it. Again, she wasn't looking for something radical. It's not like she disagreed with everything that they agreed. She was just looking for a place where she could belong. And she finally found it at this third church. It's again a church that we have to take a gravel road to get there. There's no cell service. When you get about 5 minutes close to the church, there's no cell service. But yet it's her church. These people were the ones who embraced her and welcomed her, and she feels beloved there. And because they welcomed my sister, a millennial that churches say that they're searching for, because they made her feel welcome, they gained not only my sister, then she got married, so my brother-in-law goes, and now her 2 kids have been baptized and are being raised in that church. Because this church took the time to remember her name, they gained a whole family. That's her church. She told me, so it's a lot of families who have been a part of that church for generations, and because she's an outsider, they all claim her. So she's part of everyone's family. When she had her first kid, all these people came from her church to come give her food and make sure she felt beloved. So they have really wrapped their arms around her and love her, and it's really beautiful. Sometimes, because now she has 2 small kids and nap times are important, sometimes she goes to one of the other churches on that charge for their earlier service, and there's a church that they regularly go to that has no running water. So again, a world I don't understand. When they have to use the bathroom, they have to go 10 minutes down the road to the other small town, to the general store to use the bathroom. But again, this is her church. They've moved back in town to be closer and have better internet. And she still makes that 30-40 minute drive because she found the place where she is beloved. And if you're not sure, we're in Scripture that's so important. Let me tell you about John chapter 20. This is the resurrection story. So after Jesus' death, Mary goes to the tomb to prepare his body, but she can't find him, and she is so distraught. So we find in John chapter 20 at verse 11, Mary stood weeping outside the tomb as she wept. She bent over to look into the tomb, and she saw 2 angels in white, sitting where the body of Jesus had been laid, one at the head and the other at the feet. They said to her, Woman, why are you weeping? She said to them, They have taken away my Lord, and I do not know where they have laid him. When she said this, she turned around and saw Jesus standing there, but she did not know that it was Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Woman, why are you weeping? Whom are you looking for?" Supposing him to be the gardener, she said to him, "Sir, if you have carried him away, tell me where you have laid him, and I will take him away." Jesus said to her, "Mary." She turned and said to him in Hebrew, "Rabboni," which means teacher. Mary did not recognize Jesus. Jesus might have looked different than he did when he was here on earth. Disciples did not find it important enough to tell us all the details. I mean, it was important, but they had other things that were important to write down. So here Mary saw Jesus. She thinks that he's the gardener. She's so confused. She's so grief-stricken. But as soon as he says her name, Mary, she immediately knows who it is. Jesus got to know Mary and remembers her name even after his death. There is something so powerful about our names, right? When people remember our names, when we are claimed by God as beloved, and God remembers all of our names. And so that's what we're called to do as the church, to remember people's names. Now let me tell you a trick. So on my refrigerator, I have the names on a sticky note of our neighbors, because when we first moved in, we were slowly getting to know our neighbors. And we would come home, we would meet people, and then we'd come home and I'd be like, okay, what was their name again? Let's write it down so we don't forget it. Our next door neighbor had a baby, and so we took them food, and as soon as we found out the name, came down and wrote it with their name so that I wouldn't forget it. So there's no trick. It's okay to ask someone their name several times. There's no problem in that. And it's okay to write it down because we're not expected to remember everything. But again, it's so powerful when we remember people's names and details about their lives. And so I taught the congregation this thing called WEAVE. So it's kind of an acronym to remind you how to welcome. So it's the first to welcome people. The E is to empathize with them if they share something personal. Often people who are coming to a church for the first time, they have something going on in their lives. Maybe there's a recent death in their family and they're reconnecting. So if they tell you that, empathize, listen, tell them you're sorry about what's going on. Then for A, acknowledge any needs or concerns that they have. So maybe it's a young family who comes in and they want to know where the nursery is. It's perfectly fine for you to walk them down to the nursery, show them where our childcare check-in is, or introduce them to Carmen, our children's director, so that they can get to know who people are. And then for V, verify that all needs are met. So if you walk them down to the nursery, all right, you good? You feel safe there? You know, it's okay to say things like that. And then exit. You exit on a personal level. So maybe it's from saying their name again or saying, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe I forgot your name already. Will you tell me your name again? And then I hope you have a great day," or "I'm praying for you in this season of grief," or, you know, "I hope you enjoyed our service." Any of those things just help people to feel like they were acknowledged, that their presence was actually wanted. And so we tried it out again. We tried it out at church. And so we acted like we didn't know people so we could welcome them, because there's something powerful about when we try out things, right? So then when we do it with someone who we do know, we're able to do it with someone we don't know. So all are invited this week to try that out, to try to welcome others, because we are a welcoming church. But of course, like every church, we can continue to do it and we can always improve, so that every time a visitor enters, they feel like they are treated like they are beloved, because they are. All of us are made in the image and likeness of God. All right, everyone, I hope you have a good week. Good to see you, Kendris. Praying for safe travels for your drive back. All right, talk to you guys later. Bye.